Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Now it's time for another scary story from my channel, and this one comes from a subscriber. He wrote, I was hitchhiking home with a friend of mine in 1984 when we heard what sounded like screams in the forest on the side of the road. My friend turned to me and said, "There's no one out there." And then I felt his hand on my shoulder. I looked back at him and he had a big smile on his face. He leaned over and whispered in my ear, "Look behind you." And that S, when I saw a man standing by the side of the road illuminated by the light of a match. The match flickered and danced in the darkness. He was smiling and beckoning with his finger for us to come closer. When I screamed, my friend slammed on the brakes and we screeched to a halt. We didn't wait to see what happened next. We floored it and sped away from that spot. To this day, I still wonder who that man was. Okay, I gotta say right off the bat, hitchhiking is kind of dangerous. I mean, you're thumbing a ride from a complete stranger and putting your life in their hands. It's just not a good idea. But hitchhiking in 1984, that was even scarier because cell phones didn't exist back then. If something bad happened to you while you were hitchhiking, well, chances are nobody would ever know. This guy and his friend were essentially sitting ducks on the side of the road. And if this story took place today, well, they probably would have been on TikTok or Instagram or some other social media platform, and somebody would have snatched them. But back then, things were a little different, but that didn't mean they were any less scary. And speaking of scary, let's go ahead and dive right into the story. Now, this story starts out like most scary stories do. Our two protagonists are driving down an isolated road late at night, and they hear a noise in the forest. It's a sound that makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, and you just caw and help but feel like something's out there watching you, waiting to pounce. Now our protagonist tries to convince himself that there's nothing out there, but deep down, he knows better. Because let's face it, if you out in the middle of nowhere at night and you hear a scream in the forest, chances are there's something out there.
Oh.
Something's out there. It could be anything from a wild animal to a crazed murderer. But whatever it is, it's definitely not something you want to mess with. But instead of doing the logical thing and driving away, our protagonist decides to stick around and check it out. And that's when things start to get really creepy. He feels a hand on his shoulder and turns around to see his friend smiling at him. Now this is where the story takes a turn for the truly terrifying, because what happens next is just beyond comprehension. The friend leans over and whispers something in his ear, something that sends shivers down his spine. And when he looks back at his friend, he sees something that makes his blood run cold, a big smile on his face. Now, this is where the story gets really messed up, because what happens next is just plain evil. The friend's smile was so wide it was almost a sneer. His eyes were gleaming and he was gesturing with his finger for them to come closer. This is where our protagonist realizes that he and his friend might be in over their heads. Because let's face it, if someone's inviting you to come closer with a big smile and a gleam in their eye, they're probably not trying to be your friend. They're trying to lure you in like prey. That's exactly what happens next. The protagonist screams, and his friend slams on the brakes, and they speed away from the spot. Now, this is where the story takes another turn. Because as they're driving away, our protagonist can't help but wonder who that man was and what he wanted. And that's the scariest part of all. The fact that there are people out there who would invite complete strangers to come closer just for the sake of messing with them. People like that are beyond comprehension. They're the type of people who get a kick out of scaring others for their own amusement. And that's what makes this story so terrifying. Because let's face it, if someone's willing to scare you just for fun, what's to stop them from doing something more sinister? Now thankfully our protagonists weren't harmed in this story. They were able to drive away and probably never saw that man again. But that doesn't mean that everyone is so lucky. There are plenty of stories out there of people who have been lured into the woods by strangers only to be harmed or even killed.
Ow.
And that's the scary part of all. You never know what might happen when you decide to trust a stranger. So let us take a moment to appreciate the fact that we live in a world where people are generally good. Even though there are some bad people out there, we can't let that ruin the beauty of the world. We have to remember that most people are good and try to make the best of every situation. That's why our protagonists decided to drive away instead of sticking around. They knew that the best thing for them was to get out of there as fast as possible. That's the right thing to do. If you ever find yourself in a situation where you feel like you're being stalked or harassed by a stranger, don't hesitate to get out of there. Don't try to be brave or tough it out. Just get out of there as fast as possible. Your safety is the most important thing. We also have to remember that we can't let fear control our lives. Yes, there are bad people out there, but we can't let that stop us from living our lives to the fullest. We have to be aware of our surroundings and take precautions when necessary, but we can't let fear dictate our every move. Otherwise, the bad people win. They win because they get to control us. They get to tell us how we have to live our lives. That's not something we can let happen. Finally, we have to remember that we're not alone in this world. Yes, there are bad people out there, but there are also good people who want to help. If you ever find yourself in a scary situation, don't hesitate to reach out for help. Whether it's calling the police, reaching out to a friend or family member, or going to a public place where there are people around, don't be afraid to ask for help. You're not alone in this world. There are people who care about you and want to help. In conclusion, this story is a reminder that we live in a world where anything can happen. We can't let fear control our lives, but we also can't let it keep us from taking precautions when necessary. We have to be aware of our surroundings and not put ourselves in unnecessary danger. But above all, we have to remember that we're not alone in this world. There are good people who want to help, and we should never hesitate to reach out for help when we need it. Thank you for listening to my story today. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment, and share. And don't forget to subscribe for more scary stories. Until next time, stay safe and watch your back. You never know who might be lurking in the shadows waiting to strike. Well, that certainly was a scary story. And I think the moral of the story is to never hitchhike, especially not in the middle of nowhere in 1984. And also, if you ever do hitchhike, make sure you bring along some holy water and a priest, just in case you end up in a situation where you need an exorcism. But seriously though, if you ever find yourself in a situation where you feel unsafe, just get out of there as fast as possible. Don't try to be brave or tough it out. Just get out of there. Your safety is the most important thing. And remember, you're not alone in this world. There are good people who want to help. So if you ever find yourself in a scary situation, don't hesitate to reach out for help. Whether it's calling the police, reaching out to a friend or family member, or just going to a public place where there are people around, don't be afraid to ask for help. People want to help. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and share. And don't forget to subscribe for more content. Until next time, stay safe and watch your back. You never know who might be lurking in the shadows waiting to strike.